Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is morning, technically.
There you go. Hello, welcome on this wonderful. It's the third day of Eurofurence Online, I believe.
The third.
Third or fourth, or by some counts, the 773rd of Eurofurence 29.
Surely feels like it, but it's great to be here.
Hello, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Kaki.
I'm Alector. Hello.
And all the way from Switzerland, we have Blue Panther.
Hello.
Can we see BP? Can we see BP on the screen? Here.
Yeah, there we go.
Welcome.
And today we're going to be talking about a book that's been in production for quite a bit. It's the second volume of MYRE, a graphic novel created by Alector, released to great fanfare some years ago by now. An ongoing series of which the second volume is being produced. And we're going to show you a little bit about the progress and how we've been working on this together as a creative team.
I would also totally love to mention that Kagi is my amazing co-author for the next volume of MYRE, and he's been doing so much amazing work to propel the story forward, and it's been so much fun to work with you so far.
Yeah,
and
too much fun sometimes.
Absolutely.
It's been an amazing project to work on, because the first book, which we have here, maybe you can hold it up.
Yeah, that's one thing to show. Definitely if you can see this, if the colors are right.
Yeah.
It's quite a massive tome, and the next volume is going to be of the same size. So there's lots of stuff happening inside and outside and in between. And how many years passed since then, since the first book came out?
There's the Corona year. We have no idea how time flows anymore.
At least
It might be yesterday. It might have been last century.
I remember I think this MYRE Volume 1 came out in March 2017.
That sounds plausible, yeah.
And then a couple months later, Haunt of Dreams, the production of Haunt of Dreams actually started, which was the next small epic, a little spin-off in between the two stories of MYRE Volume 1 and 2, because back then when I ran my Kickstarter, I thought I can just throw a little comic inside.
Yeah. How did that turn out?
Yeah, it turned out really well, actually. I'm very happy and proud this actually came to be, and it was also the book where Kaki and I got together more closely and worked together more closely, because you helped me refine the story, and
it was a really interesting challenge to work on, because Haunter of Dreams has no words. It's a sans mots story, so there's no dialogue. Everything is told through imagery, which is, you know, for a recovering writer, a really interesting challenge. But the principles of narratology and story structure are still the same, and are even more important when you don't have dialogue to clarify the characters. When everything has to be done through imagery to illustrate the thoughts and emotions of the characters, in particular, like the lead character is a child. And it's also like there is some interaction between the plot of Haunter of Dreams and MYRE. Like they occupy the same world, just different times and different focus. Like.
Exactly, it's a different time frame. This actually plays in the past, and some of the parts are described visually, and they will be repeated in the next volume and go throughout the other volumes of MYRE. But they're not described directly. These are little details that the reader will find out if they look closely, or if they read into it.
To enrich the world.
To enrich the world. So there are parts that have been added inside, but you know, when you see a picture, you get the feeling that something looks wholesome and it's whole, but if it was not there, something would be missing. It's almost like the icing on the cake, basically.
And while working on this, we had such a good time and simpatico. I mean, we've known each other for many years. We actually met for the first time here about 10 or 11 years ago, depending on how you measure time. And we'd long been wanting to work together. So after the opportunity arose to help out with Haunter of Dreams, I was very excited to work on the second volume of MYRE.
I almost didn't dare to ask you. We kind of slipped in it, didn't we?
It
came
just sort
to
of
you.
happened. Like you just sort of started sharing the script. But you and Blue Panther had been working together since the first volume.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
We've been working together since volume 1, and it's been great. I remember BP was always there. He always offered his help when it came to typography and the fonts and all the things I don't understand yet, because it's a totally different art form, which I don't know, simply doesn't go right into my mind. But BP, really, he's the master of it, and I really trusted his expertise in this. So when the first volume of MYRE was complete, and I inserted all the onomatopoeia, the written sound,
So that's the zap, pow, pang.
Pow, pang, kapow. I handed it to BP because he was really curious. He wanted to see it. And the first thing I heard him say is, "Canning, you have to do something about this. Alector, you have to do something about this." And
Or as it's also known, Kemming.
Kemming, yeah.
Typographer joke for the homies.
At least I do understand this one.
And that was a painful nightmare for you.
And you immediately got to work, didn't you? You were like, I would love to see the scripts now. I would love to see the pages. Give me a Dropbox file. And just 2 days later came in scribbles that you sent me. I actually got this in the folder.
Let's see. We've got
in the MYRE 1 folder. There's another one down there.
So
and if you go back,
yep. Oh, you have a mouse?
Mouse. If you go back to volume 1, and I have to do this. I do the magic here, and yes, there are some scribble doodles.
Yes. Oh gosh, there's so much in here.
I know.
I kind of just want to sit here and scroll through all of it.
You can do this if you want. Oh, it is. There must be the typography stuff here. Unless I totally forgot to save it, which would be not.
Oops.
There you go.
Yeah. Can we put that full screen, please?
Oh, memories, nostalgia.
I like how we have huge variation in the wham and the whoomp, but E is universal.
Yes.
I love these sort of scribbles and comments. Like this is, what are you actually describing here? Your handwriting is maybe, I can see maybe that you're very good with typography because like me, you struggle with handwriting. Is that a possibility?
That's
Wait, no, it's
possible.
German.
It's German, yes.
Oh, no wonder. Okay, no, then it's just...
That's BP script. He sometimes, he makes his own mental notes, actually.
So what we have on the left was the original that you sent to Blue Panther, and then the middle was where he told you what you did wrong, and a suggestion that he made. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Can you talk us through these changes, Blue?
Pardon again?
Can you talk us through these changes? Like, what did you notice that that needed to be improved, and how did you do that?
Well, for one, I noticed that was something that was fairly consistent in the first draft of the first book. That you had quite a lot of movement. You had in comic you have these movement lines. You know, these diagonal, directional points of action where you have a source and the lines go to, and the type partially simulated that, but not consistently.
Right.
And this is actually a fairly good example of that, where the first initial draft by Alector was sort of, look, it's got to be this movement. You can see where the sound source is coming from, where it's going to, and just have a clear readability of those of the lettering when it comes to, grasping at a glance what is going on in this in the situation through the
Right.
movement, and of course being able to read it at the same time.
Oh, BP, you taught me what I really like about your edits is you don't just do something to, you don't come up with a finished product or a finished onomatopoeic work. You actually show me how I can solve the problem myself. And then I send the result back to you and you check it again to see if it's actually correct. And this really helped me learn a lot more about working with fonts.
It's the best kind of help that's also empowering. It's the old joke that if you give a
Absolutely.
man a fire, he'll be warm for a night, but if you set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life.
Yeah, yes, which can be really, really short. Very good.
Yeah, these are fantastic. I enjoy these so much. Now, aside from the onomatopoeia, I believe that you also helped with the actual advising on the lettering, because look, I'm not entirely clear on how this proceeded, but I know that you changed some of the lettering in later editions of the first book when it was printed in different languages, but also when reprints occurred. Like, was Blue Panther involved in that as well?
Yes, you as well, both of you. BP, he said that the kerning isn't going so right. I have to check this again. And I checked through it because I used to do this in Photoshop at first. It worked out well, but it's not really professional.
Not ideal, yeah.
It's not ideal. And then you came to me at the very end of, before it went to print, and you said, it's not all in uppercase, because when you read the comic, you're mostly used to read the font in caps lock.
Yeah, yeah. All caps and usually some kind of brush type font, like
Exactly.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
And then MYRE got published in Germany by Splitter, and they actually used caps all the time. And then I saw a font that worked out really, really well, and I liked it a lot. And I was even able to choose the font for the German publishing.
Oh, excellent.
And all the time I had your words in my mind, like, okay, kerning, this needs to sit well, and look for a good font which you can use for your comic that looks great in caps lock. So, and I was looking for this, and then I reprinted MYRE Volume 1 and used the better font, which I don't have any change or any previous picture of this, but yeah, the font definitely looks a lot better now.
I mean, it's
I have
the
the new
difference
version.
between like a lowercase or just regular caps and all caps. Yeah, we know that from comics.
Exactly. And
Here
what
we
I
go.
also can we actually see this? Can we see the font? It's probably. Oh wait, we have to switch to the other. We have to probably switch to this one.
Oh no, that's what the
okay.
viewers at home are seeing. Yeah.
That's what the viewers. Oh,
Oh, you mean like this? Oh,
yeah.
you mean like so? Oh, I see. We have the technology. Yeah. Okay. One more
Exactly.
try.
let's see. Over. I don't know if you can see the font. It's a bit. Yeah.
Technology, eh?
Yes, well though.
I remember briefly running the German text pass, which came back from Splitter. I remember briefly running through some of the word bubbles there, because one of the issues that we had in translation is that, of course, different sorts of languages have different sorts of word lengths.
Oh yeah.
And being in Switzerland, we've got three national languages here: German, French, and Italian. So we are quite a bit versed to, scheduling room for French language mainly, because they usually have in direct comparison between German and French, for instance, the French text is usually always a line longer, or actually nearly a page more if you've got a small.
And English is notoriously short. It's very syllabically dense.
Exactly, yeah, and we had that issue, of course, when we had the first draft of Splitter as well. And I remember we had quite a discussion on tweaking the font size throughout the entire tome. so that it gets smaller, so we could fit it into bubbles that we had for fairly tight bubbles where the English language, of course, fit no problem whatsoever, but the German then didn't.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about the progress of MYRE 2 and how far we've
Yes,
come
this
so
is
far?
excellent, like transitional material, because this experience, of course, allowed you to plan MYRE 2 a lot better. Like, how did you prepare when setting up MYRE 2 for these kind of future developments, like preparing the word balloons so they could accommodate more longer text? Like, how did your approach differ?
The approach I have now is, I think, a little bit more chaotic, but also a little bit more refined than the last time, because this time we actually had a pretty good script and the storyboard went on so well, and the dialogue is already complete, thanks to you as well. And the pictures and the panels which I work on now, they look different. I learned a lot to let pictures speak as a whole, so I don't go into a ton of detail anymore as much as I used to. I mean, it does look detailed, of course, but I'm trying to work with light and shape language more, which allows me to wrap the panels around a lot better and place them to their own designated areas where I know, okay, I don't have to add so much painting in there.
Right.
But thinking about let's see if I actually have my little magical book with me.
Oh, wow.
I hope so.
Oh, okay. So I've only heard legend and stories of this book, which contains all the essential MYRE that exists.
Yeah, all the essential MYRE that exists is currently in my room.
Currently.
But we have.
That's your little thumbnailing journal, right? That's where
my
you.
thumbnailing journal,
That's
yeah.
where you begin.
Exactly. I have a little flip book, and it's currently in my room, and I wish I had it with me, but it shows how I begin with a picture, and it's usually tiny thumbnails, like of the size done in pencil, with stick figurines. And
I love them. I saw some of the close-ups, and like they'll have angry eyebrows, or they'll have a stick that says "sword" on the side, just to clarify. But it's a great way to translate this script once you've sort of approved and decided that this is the script you want,
Absolutely.
and quickly visualize that per page.
Yes, it holds tight the idea, and it prepares my mind for the next creative process.
Here.
How do we switch over? Yes.
You want that?
Yes. So, for example, this is a script detail. Okay, I think it froze.
Let's try it again. There we go.
Okay. Now that's passed beyond the tiny scribbly sketchbook. This is actually done in Photoshop now, so this is more refined. This is where I can already tell. Okay, I got the panels going on and rough ideas, and went on from there.
Yeah. So let's talk about the process.
The process, yes.
Writing for graphic novels is still writing, and the best way to start is with the script. I have some experience with this as well. I've written and produced a graphic novel before, and so over those 3 volumes, Blue Panther was involved in that as well. Contributed an excellent piece to Hidden City Volume 2. Yeah, and not to mention a lot of promotional materials. But the thing that I learned about that as a writer was, as a writer, you learn a lot about dramatic structure, the 5-act structure for certain types of plays, 4 acts, 3 acts, and how to drive your plot through the various phases of the sort of fundamental stories that we in the West know. The hero's journey is a story that's told over and over again, and you can do that in various structures. But with comics, it's really literal, because you have a fixed number of pages, and there's only a certain amount of action that can happen per page. And when you open a page, when you open a book, like the first page is on the right, and you flip it over, all your surprises, for example, should be on the top left side of a page, because otherwise, if you're working toward a surprise on the right, your eye can actually already see it while you're reading the previous page. Like that sort of thing is really, really important to think about. And so I
Exactly.
developed a method that I found very effective, was just take the total number of pages that you want and divide that in the number of acts that you need, and to then subdivide those, and that tells you what needs to happen on a given page, more or less.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a really... when I came on board, and I saw how you'd worked previously on MYRE 1, and the sort of process that you had for scripting, I sort of felt like an accountant who's being brought... Yeah, I felt so... Okay, yeah, I don't think this is going to work. I think what you've got here is actually 192 pages, and I don't think that that's... Or, you know...
And I went like, no worries, we can shorten it down. I can make good decisions about this.
And I know you can.
That's the thing about making comics. If you play that movie in your head because you have a script and you have the music that you listen to that goes along, you have your co-author that writes stories with you, and you think about this, how it plays through, you actually have to tell your brain to shoot still frames and make proper decisions on, okay, which one of the frames am I taking in actually, which one can I leave and throw out.
Yeah. It's sometimes a pretty painful process. Because I remember in a lot of our early discussions, this is the second book, and since I wasn't involved in the writing of the first book, I felt a great deal of responsibility to be respectful to what happened in the first book. So obviously I reread that a few times, and I had specifically asked you not to tell me too much about the future plans. I wanted to read the first book the way that a reader would, and then like how would these plot developments in the second book wind up feeling? What do I feel that it connects with? And I felt it was really really useful to have that sort of outsider perspective, because I didn't have your future ideas or your plans or the subplots that you were developing. I could only see what was already there, and see how we could build on that. And it was a process of going back and forth and recognizing like there are opportunities in the first book that are not being paid off in the second, or too much new stuff is being introduced in the second book without developing the first. So that was a really interesting process back and forth. But I did it in much the same way that Blue Panther did, mostly to like explain to you what I was feeling, how I understood these problems, and then to work on a solution together if that was even necessary. Yeah. But it was very important to me that this remains a Alector Fencer book.
You always gave me great ideas and the impetus to refine ideas too. And sometimes you came up with things and thoughts that I didn't even think about first, and I really, really loved them and integrated them in the next volume. And so far, it's not that bad.
Okay, you're doing a live critique of the topography? Okay, so that's a bad H. Is it? What's wrong with that H?
I can see what's happening there, yeah. Can you explain what you're doing there now?
I'm just being mean and giving you nightmares again.
I can feel it.
Oh, speaking of feeling, hey, this is that page where some cool shit happens. Okay, so what we have here at the top is a foot coming down. That's a foot of a gigantic creature. It's a megafauna species called mute.
Exactly. They host a folk of people called the Dwellers. And the reason why they're called Dwellers, even though they meander on these creatures, is because they have their buildings on top of these creatures. And they walk so slowly that they don't feel the vibration on top, so they can just build and live up there. But everything that comes across them can actually feel the reverberation and the vibration on the land.
These beings are huge. They are multiple house-sized. And so, like, this page had a particular challenge. Here we have these mutes, walking through this valley. And how do you convey the depth of sound and just the vastness? I mean, I remember that you were struggling with this, and Blue Panther, I do believe you helped with that. But I noticed that my idea for solving this, right, how do you convey this sound, was to put a vibration motor in each book to ensure that as soon as you flip the page, for some reason that didn't wind up happening. Well, maybe we can still talk about it before it goes live, because I think it would really help. But Blue, how would you approach this to convey the size and strength of a boom that is so deep that you feel it in your bones more than you hear it with your ears?
I try to depict this on the side blue. If you can zoom into the first panel a little bit, you can actually see the on the right side. Now you see all the buildings. I love how this switches around. Yeah. I try to.
Oh, it's a pressure wave.
Yes, it's supposed to be some sort of a pressure
like
wave.
It's not even dust. It's an atmospheric distortion.
Exactly, and I try to create ripples around the mountains, but since the contrasts are so low, it was very difficult to convey in such a small panel. So, which is why I try to depict this with this big cloud coming up.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if this actually needs some written font or if this particular panel can actually just live by the art itself. But I'm pretty sure that the last panel could use something that's really heavy.
Now, I'm also curious about that. How do you decide on these noises? Because that's a particularly challenging one as well. Like, is this a koom or a thump?
Yeah, and how do you write it? That's
Or
another one.
Actually, and also in different languages. Do you transliterate the onomatopoeia? God, I should play Scrabble.
That would be fun. But
I
a
can
German
briefly
one.
answer that.
Yeah.
Currently, we actually don't translate a lot of it. We leave quite a lot of it in English because it does work fairly universally now, especially people who are a bit more graphic novel savvy. They will be able to, just basically read it, even in translation. So what? We do have to do some adaptations for languages further down the road. I can imagine, especially if we ever get to a French translation, I see quite a lot of changes there. But I mean, it's early days. We're not that far yet. I hope. Here's to hope.
Yeah, you don't accidentally want one of these words to be, a swear word or a dirty word in a different language that you're translating to. I mean, that can happen.
I'm sure it happened before. What was the one page I showed you? I don't know if that was a Marvel comic, and I wish I could show it now, but it was a scene where people climbed into a massive cave, and one character looked up and saw a bat, and they said, "Oh, there are bats," and all of a sudden the bats, they started flapping their wings, and you saw the onomatopoeia, and it only said "fap," and they filled the entire page with "fap, fap, 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 fap" all around. It was very obscene.
Perfect. All right, so you have some challenges in that regard, but how about we look at a few more of these images, because you brought a whole folder to share. Are there any that you'd like to illustrate?
If you can help me with switching around the
There we go.
I can show you the very first page, which is the opening. Can we make this full screen somehow? Is this possible? I think it's even.
I found the button here. I think this is it. There we go.
Wow.
This is breathtaking.
The format of MYRE is always a bit taller, so it even reaches above the screen.
So what we're seeing here is, I do believe that this imagery was it previously introduced in the first book?
It was introduced in the first book, and it will reappear in the next volumes too, because it's a big symbol, a very important symbol, which will be described throughout and within the story.
What we're seeing here is obviously it's a tree, but it's the shapes are very evocative. A lot of the artistic design that I've seen in the world of Iria. When I saw this, I was so intrigued by the sort of angle of the curves of the branches. Reminded me a lot of the calligraphy that you've used on for the Irian language. And then, yeah, exactly, that returns in this underground structure that I'm still not fully sure what we're looking at. Like, it's tempting to look at them as roots, but structurally, it's much less chaotic than what we see above. There's a beautiful symbol here that is just captivating.
It's a very strong symbol, and it also describes partly the history of Iria, which we will go more into depth in the later story. And I always like to tease with paintings in a very symbolic way. So instead of describing images or describing something very clearly in words, I love to invite the reader in basically in my head world, in what I see, what I cannot render in words, but what I see in pictures. So this is one picture you can return later on and look at again to understand even better. But for this, it's standalone, rather symbolic, leaned on the lore of Iria, and which appeared in the very first book. Because the story is essentially about the dragons of old that were driven from the lands, and they went into hiding because of their livelihood being taken away. And for many, many hundreds and thousands of years, the dragons disappeared, and the Irians believe that they will never return, but they are always somewhere hidden around, but nobody can find them.
Yeah.
And this is a very secret
Iria is a land
area.
of mysteries, and you've
Very much so, yes.
They're heaped on top of each other and intertwined, and to reveal the nature of these mysteries through imagery that we don't have enough context yet to understand is deeply, deeply intriguing, especially when they're this beautiful. I mean, I look at this and I wonder mostly about the biology of these trees. Like, they all have these sort of semi-spherical canopies, right? So what's the purpose of that structure? Is there some kind of rain that they need to shield themselves from? Is there some kind of radiation that they're soaking up? Is it maybe to catch updrafts of certain gases?
Oh, they look kind of similar to plants or trees that you can find around deserty areas. They are very dense, very bushy, so the leaves are often not as soft as we know them here in our leafy trees. Even though I decided to go for really soft trees, because normally you have succulents, really strong moisture-taking leaves that are sharp and more
very
bushy.
Fatty, and they have spikes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I really love the shapes of these, and they kind of look like what I was going for this tree visually is breaking up the earth to make it look like lava almost.
Oh, wow.
This is why I also decided to go for the backlight, because it emphasizes this feeling of there's this huge tree, symbolic tree, and we know that the lands of Iria have been destroyed by fire, mostly.
I mean, it even looks like an organ as well. It looks like a lung. Do you know what I mean? From the brachia down to the alveoli, that kind of structure. It's wonderful symbolism.
Wow, there are so many ways you can actually interpret this. I really love this.
Well, this is one of the reasons why our creative partnership has been so fruitful. Like back in the day when I still wrote things, like that was something that I really enjoyed to share with you and see what that shook loose.
Yes.
Because we both come at these stories and these images with a lot of curiosity.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Here we have.
Oh, that was the first concept. I threw this away. So the picture.
I can tell why. It's just rubbish. I would throw it away as well. I'd be so embarrassed. How do you throw these things away?
It didn't work out well. I was struggling with this picture so much because it didn't read the way I wanted to, and I entered MYRE with the first page, thinking everything needs to be more epic and there needs to be more dynamism and movement. So I tried to go for a very diagonal look, almost like a curtain opening up, but it never really worked out for me. I mean, it does work out, it's almost done there, but
Yeah, so the
inevitably.
left was your original rendering, and then you improved on it more on the right,
Yes, and then I threw it away
and then you
because
finally abandoned it in favor of
this one.
that one. Wow.
Because the concept went more. The concept I did was another tiny scribble I've done in my magical flip-flop book with pencil. I wish I had it here, but I don't have it. And there's such a different feeling of working on paper with a pencil, because you have the direct connection to the paper, and things just flow. And then the drawing of the symbolism of the dragons, that just happened, and the idea sprouted. And in a way, I mean, this looks really cool, and I'm really happy how it turned out, but in the end, it would just be a tree. Do you know what I mean? It's a tree hanging on a rock that's not so
Yes.
solid anymore.
I mean, it looks like a great image for a movie poster, or a still from a film, but it's quite a different thing from. I mean, you call them the Chronicles of Iria, right?
Yep.
That is different from an adventure film. These are chronicles, and the concept of storytelling and story traditions, lore being passed down through generations, and being an extremely valuable source of information is a very important theme throughout MYRE.
Absolutely.
So,
And I always want to return to it, and I really want to emphasize on the symbolism even more. And the better I can put these into a picture, the happier I also feel about conveying the story. Because as an artist, you always try to find ways to convey a story within one picture, or a couple of frames. And
Yeah.
here, the big struggle with the tree was I only had one frame of that tree, and it really needed to sit, because this is the opening, and it had to work out immediately.
now, of course, in comics and in graphics novels, you have a lot more opportunities to develop. Oh, here we have the
Sorry, I don't want
progress.
to interrupt you.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is basically the progress of this.
that is breathtaking.
These are things I share with my Patreons, and I sometimes share, whenever I get the opportunity, the progress I make with paintings of this kind. And this is just a small snippet of the progress I made after the decision of using this frame instead of the other.
Yeah,
Because between this and the other painting, which you saw before, of the tree in the diagonal area, there was so much happening between. I flipped it around. I changed the colors. I changed the atmosphere. There was snow at some point, fire, and it's crazy. I struggled with it so much, and in the end, the easiest solution was the best.
sometimes the simple solutions are best. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's just for a tree, but Iria is a world populated with fascinating characters, and characters are I mean, there is no story without character. Those are the ones who make the decisions that drive the story forward. So, as a writer, I was particularly interested in exploring the characters that you'd established in MYRE 1. See which ones. I mean, it is named after the heroine, MYRE. Like, she is who the whole story should be about. Actually, I remember like a discussion that we had about an early, like, a subplot that you'd laid some clues in the first book to develop further. That we actually talked about, like, that's not about MYRE. Right? She isn't. That doesn't help her on her adventure. So should that still be part of the story as a whole? Is that really worth investing in?
Exactly. And we quickly decided not to go for it anymore and just leave it be. And for the others, the subplots, the other areas we explored, we are actually now emphasizing these characters that we saw before in the first volume. For example, people in Aaron City that you are going to see again, that we actually gave a name and a character to, and who are going to live in the story.
Yeah.
This is really exciting because yeah, it feels more how to say, more refined and more lively. I'm super
Yeah.
excited about this actually.
Well, I mean, the particular joy of seeing characters return in later stories
Yes.
is not just like the familiarity. It's not just being able to see them again. Like it kind of has to be earned. There has to be some logical reason for them to reappear, and the joy is then to know that they had lives while they were out of off screen.
Exactly, and they do have lives even when they are not doing anything, and there's always so much life you can share with your surrounding and the people
Yeah.
you decide to share the life with. And I use MYRE also to develop the world of Iria a little bit more by giving insight into how it works, and sometimes you get panels where you see, for example, like here, you see a leaf traveling across the landscape, and there are random travelers going the other way. This is one part of the simple life that happens on Iria.
But then even in this image, like it immediately evokes lots of questions about the biology of these animals, the ecology of the landscape, which is a desert, and yet there is food for this animal to eat. This front one, I mean, they look to be painted. So is that a natural feature of the animal species? It kind of looks It kind of looks like they were decorated by their owners. So what does that say about their owners culturally and the value that they place on them, while they themselves are dressed very plainly, but they have they perform sort of face paint for their pack animals? This is extraordinary, and this is just something that you pass by, never going to see them again, right? This isn't their story, but that enriches the world, and it's
exactly
that's something that you can really do in a graphic novel format much better than in a book. Because you can also convey, this image shows these are not the characters that this story is about. They are not interested in being part of the story. And considering a lot of the things that happen to the people in the story, good for them. I'm really glad that they're just going to go on and have their own. You know,
lots of things going to happen there.
It's a really cool story, but gosh, I think a lot of the people in the story of MYRE would wish that they were just traders and travelers who weren't being bothered by all the fantastic events taking place here. I mean, they certainly wouldn't want to encounter these. Oh, yes.
Oh, BP, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
Do you remember this one?
Yes, I do.
That's from MYRE 2, one of the most recent panels, and I consulted BP about the aha moment. Yeah, I wasn't really able to convey it well. It was your idea to give him the enlightenment moment that he says, aha, and I really love that, but BP...
I mean, in German it's even called the aha-Erlebnis, right?
Yeah.
We even use that in English.
That works. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what's intriguing about this, the whole situation about it.
So, BP, your suggestions were really insightful, but we actually didn't have much feedback, or we didn't give much feedback to each other after the first changes.
I honestly, I don't know what the first draft looked like on this one.
This one was the finished one later.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because you gave me the idea to pull the what's Bindestrich?
The
dash.
yes,
Yeah,
the
just
dash.
the dash. Just the dash. You suggested for me to remove it and to pull the age part way back to Schminkeldu's hood.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, just add more H's. When in doubt, add more H's.
Yes.
Got it.
When it add more H's, yeah. Because what we, I think one of my very first inputs was, you've got this enlightenment, from the color texture, you've got the enlightenment thing, and he also does the gesture. So why should the aha his aha-erlebnis, go with the God rays and with his gesture. I think it boiled down to quite a lot of those thoughts, because then it works, of course, best.
Yes, I see what you mean.
You're not wanting, because what really irked me in that was actually the dash itself. It has to be there in written text.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fine to set it. But I thought it was such a foreign object within the whole movement scene.
It breaks the symmetry.
It is.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I can't seem to scroll. Hold on.
Oh,
Yeah, see what I mean? Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's even like rendered in 3D, which is really cool, but that does place the text almost next to his cheeks, versus the final suggestion.
exactly. Yeah.
Like the fact that it's also more muted. Sorry, I keep wanting to. Yep. The fact that it's also a little bit more muted, and it seems a little simpler. It like places it in the background, almost like we're reading the echo rather than hearing him directly.
Or even his thoughts. But he could
Oh,
be
yes.
loud. I mean, he could yell it out. He's an old man after all, and he probably doesn't hear himself so well anymore.
Look, considering, I mean, I can only see his face, and I really don't want to hear what he's thinking. Like, that's probably
That's
an
good.
endless stream of consciousness of recipes and opinions and anecdotes about people who no longer exist and magic spells, and down that path madness lies.
And the massive mushrooms that grow down there.
Woohoo! Fun.
Yeah, he's having a great time.
Yeah, this is an interesting character because he appears very briefly. I think he's briefly introduced in the first book already.
He is, yes.
Yeah?
He appears once in the first and again in the second, where he plays a bigger role. A bigger role in the sense of not in length of the pages that he got on screen
Right.
share, but in the symbolism he shares with the reader.
I'm trying to think of literary antecedents, and I'm kind of struggling here because he's a character that very briefly enters MYRE's life, or rather, MYRE enters his life in the first book during her escape from Iran City, and she finds this underground structure with this gentleman with the coolest name in the universe. His name is Schminkeldoo, who's living down there, and he sort of helps her on his way, but like he has his own reality going on. He has a function that he performs, and we find out that there's a whole domain that he's responsible for down there, and this is part of that theme, seeing how the rest of the world lives their life and how much bigger it is than MYRE. That was one of the things I noticed when I was analyzing the first book. MYRE is really closed off. She does not want to engage in the world. It's something that she travels through. You know, we see her, the opening sequence, which is just breathtaking, just traveling on her mount, Varuk, through this harsh, brutal, breathtakingly gorgeous landscape. And occasionally, you know, drifting into town when she needs some new lighter fluid for her cigarette lighter. But so many offers are made to her for. I recognize these as like plot coupons in writing. Sometimes you talk about plot coupons, and that when you get. Yeah, when you collect enough of these, and you can progress to the next chapter, and it can be something like, you know, a beggar children, like begging for some money, and nope, she just ignores them. And there's a whole subplot that could have evolved that isn't going to happen because she ignores them. She's really closed off. So a lot of the story is stuff that happens to her. In the first book. The second book, we sort of worked out that it was much more important. Like, she has learned a lot, and it's time for her to start letting things in, and this is her learning process.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah,
And
she has to go through it.
This is always
Go on.
in parallel. That allows us to see a lot of these other characters and their you know, the lives that they're having, the parts of the world that they're occupying. Because now that MYRE is becoming more sensitive to that, so can we.
Yeah. And she also has to learn a very hard way to open herself up to let other people in too. And she also has to learn to be able to accept help from others because she really needs it. In the first book, she's she's very closed off. She's annoyed by everyone around her very easily. She doesn't really want to communicate a lot, and just goes her own way and lives into the day as if she has no tasks or anything. She even at some point said she doesn't know what she's looking for, but now she knows what she's looking for. And this is going to be so exciting to share. It's a very deep story.
Let's take a look at some more.
Yeah, actually, what have I got here? Okay, that's oh. Yeah, that's the first word you hear her say.
Very appropriate.
And I think I even have the finished. How do you make this small? Like, okay, I got this.
Oh yes, there we go.
Yeah.
So that was from the first thumbnail to the final rendering.
Yes.
See, she's letting the world in. She's letting it affect her, and she realizes it's all garbage, and she's in trouble.
Yes. And things are going sideways, and now she has to do something about it, and she has to make good decisions. And of course, making good decisions rapidly is very difficult. And so yeah, she has to live through it and let other people help her.
It's something that you have to learn, and I think that we both benefited from having a lot more life experience over the course of these books, because it can be very appealing to write a closed, cool character that possesses qualities and attitudes that are really cool, but those work really well in single images, like. Take The Matrix. The first posters that you saw, and Neo in his cool coat, and everyone in their cool sunglasses, and they look absolutely undefeatable. That's not an interesting story. It becomes an interesting story when you see what they struggle through, how difficult it is for them to be that we see for a brief moment. And so the rugged, emotionally closed adventurer MYRE that we knew when MYRE 1 opened.
Yeah.
She has to learn. That means lessons have to be taught to her. And it is your responsibility as the storyteller to provide her with these lessons so you can make these decisions. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Either way, they propel the plot forward, and she learns from them.
They are sometimes very harsh too. And I totally agree with you. When you are a writer or you're an artist, and you think of a character, you primarily see an image in front of your head, and you sometimes think, oh, that's really cool, I really want to write about this character or depict the character because of certain features that I want to show to the world.
Yeah.
And then you have the art, basically, and or the written script, but it's so unrefined. But at first you don't really notice it, so the character actually has to grow with you. And with their own stories too.
Yeah.
It's almost
and yell
like
shit, because what else are you going to yell in the face of what she's just encountered?
Yeah. I would do the same, actually. Probably.
I mean, there's always a bit of an artist in the art that she creates and the characters that she creates, and.
Yeah, you have to, as a comic artist, especially. I observe people. I love to communicate with people, and I love also podcasts and everything that is about communication and language and body language, and it's everything I learned I can put into the characters to make them more lively.
Yeah.
I like situations that are very simple. For example, like this one. It's a very basic reaction to a big problem. It's shit. So the reader will be able to comprehend and to feel for her in that moment, because they probably would do the very same. There's nothing else you can do in this moment except for saying this.
She's a very relatable character to a lot of us.
This is what I really love doing, and. This is also what you saw in her when you read the first volume, when you got to know her better. You said she's very relatable, and there's even more we can dig up with her. There's a lot of potential in her, but she doesn't show it yet.
She doesn't know it yet.
She doesn't know
Yeah.
it yet.
Hey, Blue, you have some background in like comics development yourself. Do you have any perspective on the story when you were brought on board? Are you still there? Oh my God!
Yes, no, I'm still here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
I think so.
Yeah. Let me put you back up there.
Okay. No, absolutely. I mean, working with you, both of you. I mean, there've been entirely different approaches. If I go back ages and decades to Heathen
Oh,
City,
God.
I remember I got a film scenarist script, and basically it was word for word, page for page. It was a written text, and with Alector, I basically always get something visual that she has already digested through her artistic vision, and then to work with. So that is actually those two different approaches form the spectrum wherein that you can work with, and it's cool to see how you can adapt to each individual approach as it is. I must honestly say, being a more visual guy, when working on comics itself, I prefer the storyboard-esque approach that Alector gives me. But then again, one of my professions is the municipal theatre, so I act and I have briefly brushed in film and television. So I do know what scripting is, and I can handle scripting. But I can absolutely see how things like this can be very daunting. The approach that you have to take is, just go.
Oh yeah.
Study the material. I usually do multiple views on material that I get. Form my first initial thoughts on design and so on, and then have to see how that I can encompass my ideas or my concepts within the already existing concept.
I also did is often when I worked on the storyboard is getting feedback from my partners, from KB and Soren. And we have our own little channel on Telegram, and I keep throwing images. I think this is dying. Keep throwing in images and ask them, okay, what does it look like for you? Does it work for you? How does it read? And very simple questions like, okay, as an outsider, as a reader, what do you feel? And then I get good feedback, like really simple stuff like, okay, yay or nay, or this works out. And this is all I need to continue with the art. And then I also have Patrick's, who also looks at the art often, and he's very clear about visual storytelling. So he has a very different perspective on how pictures have to work. And so I always love going back and forth with the art because it's really important for me to get it right. To make these very important decisions.
To get feedback from different perspectives.
From peers, and friends, and also from beta readers later on. Because they have a totally different perspective. They will read the story without any previous knowledge and work they added.
Yeah. They've got only the text, they've got none of the process or the thought processes beforehand.
Yeah. And then they come back with a hammer. It's like, okay, this and this and this. But those are the best ones.
It's brutal, but, well, no. I mean, there are people who say that they give very brutal critiques. I don't think that's correct. Honest is not the same as brutal. Like cruelty is very different from... Because someone who gives brutal critiques doesn't always articulate what it is that doesn't work for them. I mean, yes, okay, you see something and it doesn't work for you. Like, great, oh, you made a fantastic picture of a tree. When you hold it upside down, it looks like a ding-a-ling. So maybe, right, that's a very simple, but that's a great thing to piece of feedback to get. And then you know, okay, well, I didn't intend to draw a ding-a-ling, so let's go back. But it can be more subtle. It can be a certain character decision where it feels like, oh, that doesn't feel right for them. Okay, why? What is it that you're modeling? Why is this character different in your mind than in mine, and how can we solve that? And that's something that I often find lacking from people who said, you know, they give brutal critique that yes, they're conveying what they're feeling, but they're not really interrogating it nearly enough. And that's something that I feel is very important when you select a brain trust of peers, of beta readers. Not just people who will be honest, because you know it's also a problem when someone is too kind or considerate or wants to impress you with their approval or
that doesn't really work out so well. It doesn't bring you forward. It doesn't bring you further in your own process.
Right.
You often, as an artist, or a writer, you rely on critique, good criticism. Like constructive criticism that actually really tells you how to work out problems and how to refine an idea better, to make it work even better, to bring out the potential.
Yeah, to highlight a terrible H that needs to, right?
Ooh.
I love that this idea that you have all of these letters and one of them is bad and that one needs to be punished. This H, actually, that sort of breaks the rule. If in doubt, add more H's. No, not in this case.
Yeah, I can see why it breaks the rule. Yeah, I know. It's the...
Oh, okay, because it's...
It's that stroke there, maybe. Yeah,
the stroke is too low. What's wrong with it?
Of the movement is at wrong angle.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't have that, can we? Gosh.
Oh no, how could I?
So now, zooming out, this is actually a very good example of a page of how to approach things. If you know, in this ping pong discussion of ours, we talked about the first panel and you know how vibration and motion within the picture itself can drive. Can already convey quite a huge amount of sound and soundscape. So I'm actually with Alec on this. This actually does not need a lot of onomatopoeia here. We don't need anything written here basically, because you can see the vibrations, you can see the dust cloud. It's fairly clear of what's going on here. But when I would approach the page like this, you know, I get this, and you know, as I've done here, just basically add some lines and see where are the dynamic structures of this.
I really enjoy the lines too. They emphasize the movement even more. They're really great.
I see. So even the choice to not feature any onomatopoeia in that first only makes it seem louder.
Yeah.
Right? A sound that you don't hear, but that drowns out everything else.
Yeah.
Like I sort of imagine this foot coming down, and then there's just nothing.
Just vibration, but you can see it.
This one low, slow pressure wave that just obliterates all other like vibrations in the air that were already there. And yeah, to express that with those lines. Gosh, I remember seeing the French cave paintings that Werner Herzog made a documentary about, and how there was a 35,000-year-old painting of horses, and they had lines drawn behind them because they had already figured out, like the motion lines in
lines.
comics were invented however many thousands of years ago it was. So how are you implying them here? Or do the orange lines signify something else here?
The orange lines here signify something completely different.
Okay.
If I can currently hang on a moment. So this is a picture without the lines. So I'm now looking at the movement and basically the core structure of the images. Where are the motion lines? Where are the action lines? And we can clearly see them here in basically diagonally, running diagonally to the entire layout. So if I add them back in again, that's basically, this is my more or less the grid reference, as it say. So, and what traditionally would happen in sort of comic, where you know, go in and do some what would you say, some traditional digital type thing. You know, you just add some skewed words in, and then it will be an overlay on a further level, on a further layer, and you just say, you know, well, basically it's just overset, and this is a pet peeve of mine. I'm seeing it in a lot of comics nowadays, and for me, you know, yeah, it does convey grandness, it does convey sound, but it doesn't approach the picture, it doesn't approach the action, it doesn't approach the movement. It's just basically somebody gone in Photoshop and just added type on top.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
So-
doesn't work well.
And it's a layer that somehow floats in between the art and you, the reader. It's not part of that world.
Yes.
Exactly, and so these are the two suggestions that I've been doodling on whilst you guys have been talking. So
Ooh,
I've got
cool.
one suggestion here, which is more sort of sound towards the foot, you know, coming down. We've got here in the lower right hand section, we've got the plant life again that we have already achieved. Further up here,
yeah.
you know, that they are bursting, that there is some dust emitting going on. So, and we've got
Grass.
those here in the bottom left-hand corner. So from there outwards, we've got, well, what is the impact that we've got here? The foot comes down, the vibration sends the plant shaking. So that is the viewpoint that you should have. Then, of course, if you say, okay, I'll look at the valley, the general soundscape of the valley, you have something completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
This is
You have
this
a more
works better.
solid structured thing around the foot itself. As you can see, I'm picking up the other lines, the other diagonal lines, which follow basically the path of the valley itself, and sort of accentuate around the foot itself. So you can see that is where the sound source is.
The great thing is,
Right.
if you think about the shape that we see now, the boom, which works really well already. I love the perspective of this. But if it was, now imagine this would be not just a simple font added and drawn in perspective, like in black or gray or whatever color, but actually to make it look like one of these waves that we saw on the first panel on top. Like to make it look almost translucent, but you can see the boom, but it's integrated in that picture.
That it's almost imperceptible, that you first parse it as another one of these pressure waves
Yes,
before you, that's really,
that's a big possibility.
well, it hasn't gone to print yet, so maybe there's still a possibility to explore that.
Yes. So if you see this inside the book, then you know.
I love how it's being projected on the ground,
Yeah.
right? Almost as if there's a laser projector from above. No, but it's that principle of integrating the sound into the world that I really, really love.
BP, can you actually color the boom in the same atmospheric cloud light, like that white grayish? Would love to see
Yeah,
this.
can try, yeah.
Then do you know, sometimes you see when you are on a plane and you see big cloud formations, and you see that they are so dense you can actually on the land see them throwing a shadow.
Yes.
This would work as well. If the boom would throw a shadow,
wow.
it looked like a big cloud forming up there. You know, these are all the ideas that can pop up in your mind if you work together in a great team. I really love this. Great.
So is this sort of indicative of the kind of process that you two go through when you're examining these images? Like, do you screen share like this to brainstorm and develop these, because the onomatopoeia, the sound words in a comic are as important as the dialogue, right? It's like the sound design for a film. So, like, do you do these co-designing sessions as well?
Not to this extent. This is the first session that we're doing
Oh, wow.
of this kind. Yeah.
Clearly, we need to do this more often.
Yes. What do you think about this, BP?
Yeah, absolutely.
If we got the time for it. And then later, before it goes to production, we can actually put on some screen share together between the three of us and see what we can come up with. This
sounds
is
great.
really great.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, all for it. The thing is, I think once it comes to pre-production, to finalizing the individual pages and the individual pictures, that is when tension really ramps up. I remember that we had 2 or 3 meetings, weekly meetings back in the day. That was Skype. And we're constantly ping-ponging stuff on Telegram, for instance. Telegram is a brilliant tool when it comes to share processes of pictures, because you have what I frequently do is I go through the chat history and see, that has slightly changed. Is this going in the right direction? It can always go a step back or a step forward, and that is actually fairly handy. And then I can always point. I mean, I can point. Alector, look, the picture from the Monday back in March, that was better than than the direction that we're currently going into. Shall we go back and see what we did there, which was better?
I'm envious of you guys, because my part in the process is done. Right, the script is done, the thumbnails are done, and I just get to sit back and sort of delight as I sip my morning tea when occasionally, like, a brand new image, a fully realized page is dropped in, and I just get to marvel at it. But yeah, there's almost nothing at this point left for me to do, except maybe like pick at my own dialogue. Mm-hmm. Sometimes,
if you find something.
Yeah, exactly. there might be an even worse pun that I could subject you to.
I'm always open for this, always. But what might actually interest you is when you give a character words, they come to life in my mind, and I'm trying to depict what they say with the body language they use and also the facial expressions. Which is why I think it's very important for me that the dialogue and the script was already ready before I started drawing, because I often saw peers working on comics, and they did not have any sort of thing of this kind, not real storyboarding or a proper dialogue. So they just started drawing what was in their head and just went on with this, which can work. Hey, look at this.
Whoa.
It can work, but it's more cumbersome, because later in the process, once you're done with your comic, you may have to change pages, or you decide to throw them out again, which is, time-consuming and nerve-consuming.
There was a bit of that in Haunter of Dreams, which you were already producing when you asked me to take a look. And there were several times when I realized, or when we discussed it and realized that certain areas needed expanding.
Oh yeah.
That there was that the previous pages had set up a rhythm that then needed to be that rhythm needed to be followed. You couldn't then have the great moment of doubt in the character's mind, like the character always goes through the dark forest where they doubt themselves and they have to find their courage again.
Yes.
You can't do that in 2 pages after you've had 6 pages for the opening, because then it just feels too brief. It doesn't feel like it's earned.
Exactly, that was the word that kept sticking to my mind. That's he needs to earn his keep, basically.
Yeah.
Wow, I love what you're doing, BP. This is amazing.
This is really, really breathtaking.
This is really, really good. Wow.
I'm so glad we did this. We wouldn't have had this fantastic. I mean, it looks like condensation.
I love
like contrails, right? There's a pressure.
They have their own chemtrails.
No, contrails. Contrails are a real thing.
Sorry. I misunderstood. But it would work too.
Oh no, there's bubble grass down there. I'm sure they leave chemtrails when they get ruptured.
This looks great.
So we just need to add a bit more distortion. This is fairly hapdash and slashy, but yeah, I think the idea works.
Yeah, with the soft shadow as well.
Absolutely.
Well,
That's done.
okay. Now we're just on another page now.
Yes, no, basically, this is how we do it. Thank you very much, people.
I think
Really good.
that's a really good place to leave this session. Unless there are people who have questions. I don't know. I know that this is being
How do I
being
get
streamed.
back to the? Sorry, how do I get back to the
Oh.
folder? What's it?
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh well, I was wondering if you wanted to do any Q&A, whether that's even something we can do. Oh, we're probably on a bit of a delay for Twitch, so a Q&A probably won't work. We'll have to save that for another time. God, I love her.
Best of the face.
She's so grumpy.
She hates her situation there. It's not a good one.
But she's been through it before. What is this reminding me of? I'm seeing this image. Okay, if you don't look at her eyes and you just look at the snoot and the teeth there, it's almost like I'm thinking like a bear snout. Is there an animated film that it's really like triggering something in my little brain that I've seen before. I haven't enlarged
It kind
this.
of does look a bear snout.
With a big juicy snoot that they've got.
I really like the process because I didn't. It was another mirror face struggle, and at some point I simply decided to show her teeth. And if you remember in the first script, she said something else, and then I changed it to "of course" because that happened before.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, she said shit again, and it didn't work well because it would have been
Now you
kind
gotta
of.
save that.
Yeah, you
Gotta
have
keep
to
it
save this up.
special.
Exactly. But she's in a situation that sort of happened before to her. She says, of course, because she's not surprised anymore.
No, and she's very cynical.
Yeah.
Right? She deals with hardship by just grunting and stubborning her way through. That's how she's faced it before. Like we saw that in the first book. You know, she gets attacked by bandits after she's been betrayed by someone who claimed to be a friend. And she's angry and she's not upset, but she's not shocked. Like you haven't completely shattered my innocent worldview. That was never there to begin with. If anything, like she's grumpy that she got herself into this situation again.
Yeah. And especially because she knows her world, and it's part of why she shuts herself away from it so much.
Yeah, she's not going to have that option for very much longer.
Oh, there's a view of the city gate of
Oh
Iran.
God. Now it's an obvious question, but were you inspired by the famous blue tiles of Babylon for this?
I was
This
exactly Babylon, exactly the gate of Babylon. If you've seen this, I really love the art, and I really love the blue accents they use to surround their pictures with.
Yeah.
And this is one image I wanted to give Iran City is the white and blue images and art and
I appreciate
pillars.
that the blue is there. Like
it looks fresh.
exactly, and it looks alive in a way that we have through Hollywood primarily. We have images of prior civilizations, the Roman civilization and medieval civilizations, that sort of they make buildings look the way they look now. You know, in Rome, they still have huge structures made out of marble, and castles are made out of stone that have stood the test of time.
Yes.
And a lot of these productions are filmed in those actual locations, and that is what they look like. And oh gosh, imagine to be there when it was still being occupied. But our imagination is completely wrong. It misses out on the fact that humans love to decorate things.
Yes.
Like the Romans thought that marble, we think that it's beautiful. Marble arches, marble columns, it's gorgeous. The Romans thought it was ugly. Like it was a good building building material, and you can put plaster over it, and then you can make it purple or pink or whatever color is in fashion. Then you can take the plaster off and put more on. I sort of love this idea that this is just this year's fashion. Maybe that this is just like after the last election, the you know that every I don't know who's in charge of Iran City, but maybe they have their own banner color, and then they repaint half the city to match their brand.
They have their own emblem, actually. Can you hear me? Test. I think
Yeah,
it's died.
we can hear you. No,
Oh, it didn't die. Okay, I cannot hear myself anymore. But now I do. Okay, they do have their own symbol, their own emblem for their city, which is the tree.
oh yes, of course.
Because the city actually is surrounding a massive tree, which has roots going down to the catacombs of the city, to the very beginning of it.
Yeah.
And so the city kept building up itself up to the very top. And of course, as it usually goes, the hierarchy of the city, the richer people, they live on the very top and in the shade of the tree and where everything is rich and beautiful. And the further down you go, the more bustling life you have, the more dank it gets.
That's where the cool shit happens.
Actually, we have a really cool idea. If you remember, you're a great photographer and you love to capture moments between people.
Oh my God, yes.
And imagine you would be a character inside of area,
I would have such a good time.
going through the lower areas or even the upper class areas of Aran City and taking pictures of the characters living in there, you know, doing their lives. And
Yeah, with their noses pressed up against shop windows, and I mean exactly this. That was the image on the right, where I just my camera fingers start itching, and I just wanted to run here. Look, you've got the reflective cobblestones, and people who are, I mean, they're just enraptured with their dinner that they're going to look for, and there's a cool new pot. Oh, I could use that, or that'd make a good gift. And all these shopkeepers who have decorated their wares with plants, or with, in that case, that's an interesting skull. It has 4 horns. I'm just noticing. Oh no, it's 2 skulls. Yeah.
yeah, they're sitting on top of you.
And
there
bags.
are people doing stuff, and then one guy smoking a cigarette.
Yep, just
the other one shopping for bread.
pretending that he's waiting for someone cooler than us. What a nerd.
Now imagine we would have a scene where you came by and you took a photo of this guy, and you could see his cigarette, and only there's the light of a cigarette, and you can only see his eyes
that
and
noir look. I love it.
these are good ideas. We need more time. We need more than
No,
one life.
forward.
Forward. Yes.
Exactly. We have more, but yeah. Like a
we've got
kid
the book-
tugging his
we've got the
mother's...
book to finish.
Say what?
We've got the book to finish. Forward.
I know.
No, the sure and steady wins the race. That was something that I was also, and that's probably where we should wrap it up. Like, that's something that I was very, very impressed with when we started working together. The discipline and clarity and the realism of your timelines. Now, of course, when you're producing a work like this, timelines have to be adjusted as they face reality. But they were never unrealistic to begin with. Like, you know your productivity. And I especially appreciated your confidence. And I've worked with other artists before, and not everyone has this to the same degree. Your confidence in nailing down, like, the script. I'm doing a pass on the dialogue, and now that's done, and we have confidence in it now. We're not going to keep doubting it. We're not going to keep refining it. We don't have to do that. We're moving on to that now. You're wearing a different hat.
Yeah.
Been a writer, and now you're the artist, and now, as if there's a whole production team, a production table with 8 seats, and you just go and sit in a different seat every day to do a different job, and trust the other people.
Yes.
Trust your past self.
Yes. And especially trust you and BP in your works. And this is one big weight off of my shoulders, to be able to delegate certain specific areas of expertise which I am not as skilled as you are. And it's so much fun to work with you, to make these stories come to realization. And I want to show how important it is to me by making these decisions of putting these to work and actually finishing it. It's not just a it's not just a dream anymore. It's actually the thing is alive. The
Yeah.
project lives, and this is why I also have to go my own stringent, my own pattern to realize big projects of this kind.
Yeah.
So it's almost like when you think of it, when you think of a project, you have certain ladders that you, and then each step has one task. And once you finish that one task, you can go up higher and leave the old
Yeah.
baggage behind. So if your mind is not clogged, then you can keep working on it really unburdened, in an unburdened way.
It's the only way to keep making progress.
Absolutely. Just to let go.
Well,
I
thank
have
you.
nothing to add to that.
I feel the same way. I'll switch back to
BP.
BP here.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for
Thank you, VP.
joining us as we took a glimpse into MYRE 2. And for the people at home, I hope you were as riveted and interested as I've been, because like seeing the artistic process is such an exciting thing for me, because I just get to sit there and look at them go, they're making cool shit now.
But also going into thought worlds with you when you throw in an idea and the artists come and say, okay, we can do this and that, and let's just work this out. And I really love what you did with the cloudscape. The boom,
Oh, yes,
it
yes.
looks so great. I'm really happy about
Let's
this.
put that up on the screen.
It's so good.
Can you zoom in on it again for us, BP?
Oh, he's in a selective mode.
I seem to have lost any. Hang on.
Well, we can see it. There's a cool cross-hatching thing.
Yeah, that's a selection thingy going on in Procreate.
I think it's cool. Can we do that through the whole book?
Yeah.
No? Oh, no. I thought it'd be cool.
It would be a very bad MYRE pattern.
It worked very well.
bad.
But yeah, thank you to the people at home for joining us. I hope you were as interested as I've been. Thank you also to our studio audience.
Thank you.
Yeah, see? See, this is so much nicer than when you do a Zoom call with work. There's no applause at the end to let you know that you're done.
Yeah.
Claudia, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nico.
Rupanta, thank you so much.
Thanks a bunch.
Thank you for having me.
Vicky. Thanks for your great work. You're always amazing. And I'm looking forward to hearing your kerning yells at me again. Kerning. Oh, right. Thank you.